Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today we're talking about my 30 days caffeine-free, which I know probably doesn't sound super exciting to most of you, but if you'll recall, I did talk a little bit more than a month ago, I think, about going caffeine. Maybe it was 2 months ago now that I think about it. I can't remember exactly. Sometime in August, I talked about going caffeine-free. I was going to try it for 30 days. So today's podcast is an update for that. I did try to go caffeine-free, which meant no coffee, no tea, no chocolate, none of that for 30 days. And let me tell you, I did not make it the whole 30 days, and that's okay. I did make it a couple of weeks, and I'll start by explaining to you the reason I decided to do a 30-day caffeine-free sort of detox was because I had started to drink a couple of cups of coffee a day. I was constantly dealing with headaches. My sleep quality was very poor, and I did some research and found out, because caffeine's a stimulant, just how it affected all of those things. So I was hoping to sort of reset my body and my dependence on coffee and caffeine in order to deal with the headaches and the low sleep quality. So I made it 2 weeks without anything, without chocolate, tea, coffee, any of that. And my sleep quality did get better, actually. It went from 57%, I think it was, up to about 98% every night within the first few days of no caffeine. That changed really rapidly. The headaches dissipated. I actually typically would get a headache mid-afternoon around 2 o'clock or so, and that just didn't happen at all during the 2 weeks. I think day one I had a little bit of a headache, but aside from that, I didn't have any at all. But the reason it didn't last more than 2 weeks, and I did continue to try for the full 30 days, but in week 2, I ended up ordering a green tea. I was out and about doing stuff and got a green tea from Starbucks, and green tea does have caffeine in it. So that sort of kiboshed the 30 days caffeine-free. And then by week 3, I think it was, I had a really hard night of sleeping. I think maybe I got like 3 hours sleep, and I had to be up at 5 a.m. the next morning. I am in Canada, for those of you listening to the podcast. I did go to Tim Hortons, which is our main coffee shop stop here in Canada, kind of like Dunkin' Donuts that you guys have if you're listening from the States. So anyway, now that I've rambled, I had stopped at Tim Hortons and I got an ice cap just because I felt like I needed something to be able to cope at 5 a.m. So yes, I did not manage to make it the full 30 days, but I did make it the full 30 days without making coffee at home. I did make it the full 30 days without actually having a cup of coffee. And those are the only two, let's call them slip-ups, that I had during the 30 days. I, of course, have learned a lot of stuff about myself during this whole process. One being, I don't know that I necessarily need coffee, but I do every once in a while want a cup of coffee. We all have these memories associated with coffee. And for me, one of them is when I was camping when I was a little kid with my dad, I would always wake up in the morning to the smell of him making coffee over the campfire. So there's an emotional attachment there for me. But I also kind of like the taste, and it's soothing and comforting and cozy and just homey to sit and have a cup of coffee in front of a fire every once in a while. So I know I'm never going to be like coffee free fully or caffeine free, because I love green tea and I love matcha, which also has caffeine in it. What I have learned through this process is I don't need to have it. I can, in moderation, determine when to have it in my life and when not to. But I've also learned that absolutely the research is correct. It makes a difference on how you sleep. It makes a difference on how you feel. It makes a difference on how you function throughout the course of the day. So when I was drinking a couple cups of coffee a day, I typically would, by midday, start to feel groggy and foggy and like I couldn't function without the coffee. Now I can get through a whole day and it's not an issue for me. So I think it was a great experiment. I'm going to call it an experiment because it wasn't fully successful, but I did learn a lot about myself and about why I do enjoy coffee and about why I may continue to have it in my life. I just won't have it to the extent where it's 2 cups of coffee a day. And I may start doing decaf instead of caffeine. And I'm okay with that. So that's the update on coffee. If you've ever gone caffeine-free, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. I'd love to hear how you dealt with it, how long you lasted. It's definitely something that's sort of become part of most people's days. And I don't know that everyone could go without it. And that's okay. But I'm super glad that I tried. I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing week this week. And I will chat with you next week, okay? Bye for now.